Hey, kitchenettes. It has been almost over this week. And it's been a little rough. I am tired. But I think starting to juice again is going to help with that. I was so tired I had to sleep before I drove back from little person school. Because I was definitely falling asleep or feeling like I was going to fall asleep while driving there. And I just couldn't risk getting back on the road. Almost thought about pulling over on the way there. I look rough. In my face. Like my hair is the usual hot mess. Don King look. I feel like you can see in my face. Linda did a face wash because we took pictures for her birthday. And she said I look tired. I was tired. I hadn't slept all week trying to get her cake. 3 cakes. And the next one is due Sunday. So I would wake up around 12, 1 o'clock instead of getting that extra hour and focus on getting her the cake. Between research and calling people and texting and emailing, it was worth it. It was worth it. And then we did the concert. And then this week we're going on a boat cruise. And I went to try to get the car fixed on Friday. It did not work out, so we're doing it this Friday. I'd like to push it. But I think the weekend after, I almost have nothing to do. I don't have anything to do that Friday, but maybe that's Saturday. We're going to celebrate Kev's birthday, my brother. So we got a brother-in-law, and a brother, and a son. They're not biological. Tired. So I feel like we talked a couple of weeks back about Jesus healing you, coming to you to heal you, and asking if you want to be healed. There was maybe another one where he heals by decree of the Father. Like the kid who he says the Father comes to Jesus and says he delegates his task. So if you just say my son is healed, he is healed. And if I'm correct, we talk about Lazarus being someone he raised from the dead. But Lazarus was dead for 3 days, whereas others were just for a moment, or just near death. I gotta read the Bible again, guys. You gotta let me catch up to that, because I'm going off of stories based on memory. I was listening to Michael Todd. I genuinely like him. I know some don't. You can find flaw with any man, because the man, I don't think he pretends to be perfect. He says he's a work in progress. So I like that. And he was talking about men this week. You need to choose submission. And I hate to counter that, right? I feel like the Bible is full of not contradictions, but of more than one way to skin a cat. Like how Jesus healed blindness a couple of different ways. spit and mud and washing in a lake, and I don't know what else he did, but I feel like there's like 3 or 4 healing. And then Peter did it. Yeah, I think he just spoke and the man was healed. Right? I know that Peter did it. Don't remember how he did it. I bring this up because he said that men need to choose submission. And I argue that there is a Jesus and a God for those of us who need to be submitted. When Saul became Paul, he didn't choose submission. Not immediately. He was blinded. He didn't know God. When I was a child, and that might be the thing of it too. I was a child. I prayed for God, if I was too hard-headed to hear him, to swallow me like Jonah in a well and take me where he wants me to go. And here's the thing. God wants us to choose him daily. But if we don't, and he wants to use us, he will make you submit. I don't know where I am in my life. If I'm able to choose submission. Because we make it sound so simple to submit under an authority. Especially if you come from trauma. If you come from where you had to trust only yourself. There is this Facebook, TikTok, YouTuber I just found. She talks about the idea of coming from a me family versus a we family. And in me, everything is transactional. In me, you have to take care of yourself. In we, everything is done for the betterment of the whole. And when things happen, it's because you care. When you do for the other, you're not counting and keeping score. You're doing it because you can, because it's what's best for the unit. I think that's the difference between capitalism and communism and socialism. The intention between communism and socialism is that they'll do what's best for the community, not just the one. Though in real life, one always seems to. What is this? It's really bothering me. It came off. I had a dry patch over here a couple of months ago, and then again a couple of weeks ago, where it was just white, and I couldn't wipe it off. I had to scrub it with some serum Linda has, and do like a light exfoliant. So I was getting dry patches. Very unsettling. Where was I? It's hard coming from trauma to trust and submit, because no one you submitted to in the past had your best interest at heart. I counter for submission, you need to be healed. We submit out of fear, right? And God doesn't want us to be, I won't say he doesn't want us to be afraid, because I feel like there is some fear in this relationship, you know? Like, you fear your mom and sister, your dad. You love them. They love you. But there's a little bit of fear. Like, I grew up where I brought you in this world, I can take you out of it kind of world. And so there was some fear in that love. It wasn't just love. There was some fear of punishment and things being taken away for discipline. If you were to the extreme of Caribbean parents. I even think some white parents said it. You know, it was a thing back then. It's a biblical thing. It says, you know, honor thy mother and father so that your days may be long. So, I mean, parents were taking this real literal. And it was said, you know, you can have more kids. You can't have another parent. And I've heard some Africans say, so, like, there's this movie I watched. He's like, you can have another child, you can't give it to me. Like, that children are almost disposable. And not that they're not your pride and your glory, but more can come from you, where no more of you can come from them. So I don't want to take away that there isn't an element of fear with the creator of the universe who just blotted out a whole state, who flooded the earth, you know, like, let's be real, who allowed Israel to be captured at the lesson. He protected them in that situation, but they were punished. Right? So, yeah, there's an element of fear in this situation, let's be real. But also, love. And maybe need. I was listening to a pastor who, unfortunately, the U.S. is bombing Iran. And I guess there's some retaliation. And they bombed the U.S. embassy. I'm just going by hearsay. And this pastor in Iran has witnessed this, and his family's there, so we're praying for his protection and safety. But he said that we love out of need. We need Jesus. We need a higher power, whatever that higher power is. We need partnership. I want to keep harping on that. In every message, we need community, we need partnership, we need agreement. God even says, when 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, whatever they say, I will do. You need that. He's in agreement with himself. Whatever we bind on earth, he binds in heaven. We're in agreement with him as a partnership. We need that. But I argue that if you are not ready to submit by yourself, if you haven't healed enough, if you're not trusted enough, if you are too damaged on your own, that he can have you submit by himself and change your heart. See, I feel like Saul coming into Paul, once he was blinded, there was this revelation. What the loss of sight became sight, right? There was this glorious epiphany. It was amazing. But then I think a lot of us are like Jonah. We don't want to do this. We don't. And not even all the way because we don't trust you. We don't think it's fair. We don't think it's fair, your grace on this one and that one. You love me, but you let this one get away with that. The people of Nineveh were sinners. They were blasphemers. I don't know about murders and stuff like that. I don't remember, but I feel like they were sexual adulterers. I feel like they just were not good people. They had attacked Israel. He's like, you want me to go to my enemy? This is not fair. And God said, you will submit. This is not a choice. Try as you may to run. I will swallow you in a whale. And once you decide, first he had to decide that this was all him. That God's wrath was coming after him with the storm. And jump off a boat or be thrown off the boat voluntarily. He had to volunteer to let go of his path and not know what was going to happen next. He didn't know there was going to be a whale to swallow him. He thought he was going to die at sea. He's being thrown or jumping off a boat in the middle of the deep sea. It's not like people are walking around with life preservers or there's cruise ships every 5 minutes. And then to be swallowed by a whale. It's no one thinking. I know some might believe it says, what is this? Purgatory? Something where it's not real, just an idea of a situation. But let's say it is. Even if a boat came, right? Let's say the whale is a boat. Who would think that in the middle of the sea that's going to happen? But it did. And in that, he had to repent. And I guess he does submit voluntarily. And he says, God, your will. Jesus submitted. But he cried tears of blood first. And then said, not your will, not my will, but your will be done. Sometimes it takes some stuff for us to submit. Sometimes God has to help us submit. So I argue that as much as a man can choose to submit, the prodigal son chose to come back and submit to his father. Sometimes God can meet you where you are and cause you to submit. I think about it years ago. I was working a job and I was in so much physical pain. And every day I had to pray for healing. I had to pray that he give me the strength to get through the day. I would walk in hunchback and I would get off hunchback. But through my shift, I was energized and able to move like I could never move before. And at some point I said, Jesus, we don't have to do this every day. I will come to you voluntarily. But he had to give me a reason. He had to cause me to submit to him daily. And I think it's hard for us to realize that sometimes the things that are happening in our life is to draw us near to our power, our omnipotent God, our partnerships, our family. They happen because we can't do this by ourselves. And we wouldn't know any other way. We've hit a wall. Kind of forced into submission. I think about a cartoon, Eyes Wakanda. In the first episode, is I think this guy called the Lion. I don't remember what his name is, but I feel like it's the Lion. And he makes everyone submit to him, voluntarily or involuntarily. And one of the guys said, you will soon learn to love this even though it was forced on you, because you would have a roof over your head and you'd be fed. I don't say God causes bad things to happen. He allows our choice to produce the fruit it's going to produce without His help, so that you can see you can only do it with His help. Parents watch us struggle sometimes, wanting us to come to them so they can help us, so they can guide us, so they can protect us. At a certain point, you realize you can't force this on your child. You can give them all the advice that you want to, but if they don't want to take it, you can bring them all the nutritious food. Little person, we had an issue. We have the issue with her eating the way we want her to. I grew up where you cleaned your plate. It wasn't a choice, it's what you did. It's not if you liked the food. It wasn't if this is your favorite meal. It didn't matter if you were hungry or not. If you cleaned your plate, that was a requirement. It is unhealthy. Like, I am overweight. I have an unhealthy relationship with food because of some of these things that we did. But it was done because it's the same way the body stores fat, because there's no one this next meal is going to come. You gotta think, we come from generations where they didn't know if they were going to eat or not, where slave owners could choose to not feed you, right? Where you didn't know if there was enough food in the cupboard because jobs weren't guaranteed, and supermarkets wasn't a guarantee, and your garden was all you had, and that isn't a guarantee. So from a time where if you were fat, even white people, when you start in Europe, if you were fat, it's because you were rich. In Africa, if you were fat, it's because you were rich, because food is not a guarantee. So you don't play with that. It's a trauma. It's a trauma response. We're not in that situation anymore, so we can come out of bad behavior. And so the conversation I had with Mom and Sis was that we can't force the little person to eat. If she chooses not to open her mouth, we have to respect that. Even if you do force her to open, you can't force her to keep it down. There's no forcing that. There's an amount of control that she has in a situation where she has to submit and choose to eat and swallow it and keep it in her and thrive from it. Sometimes God causes you to submit. And sometimes you get to choose all by yourself. And sometimes He makes it happen whether you choose it or not. Our little person's here. Bye.